everybody, welcome back. I'm David Rosengarten, filling in for Sarah Moulton, and I am joined, I'm happy to say, by master baker and cookbook author Levy Beranbaum. Now, let me just recap our menu for tonight. It's an exciting one. We've got the lemon poppy seed pound cake with the blueberry glaze. We've got the Cordon rose cheesecake, which we are about to make, and then, of course, the devastating brownie puddle, which you shall see shortly. But right now we're going to finish the lemon poppy seed pound cake, aren't we, Rose?
We are.
We are, yes. So tell us what we do. Now, wait, remember, we poured lemon syrup over this. How long ago did we do that?
10 minutes ago.
Okay.
Right? Time
10
flies.
minutes ago. Time flies when you're having fun. All right, and now you invert.
Actually, the safest way to invert is by putting a greased rack right on top of it and then lifting it off. Not yet, but soon. Patience. And you see, this is that piece of parchment that ensures that it's going to come out of the pan so well.
Right.
And that just gets peeled off.
My.
Now,
what a nice look. How professional.
Thank
you. Now you take a little bit of that glaze.
Yeah, and we just brush the bottom because we want to brush most of it onto the top since it's going to be inverted and the glaze sinks down into it. And that way it will be even. But you know, David, the best way to have it really even is when you make this cake 24 hours ahead.
Yeah.
Because when you do a glaze in a cake, it takes about that long for it to
really
even
sink in.
Yeah, and to develop flavor. Now we're going to reinvert it. Always grease the rack and don't
grease it with what?
Well, I use spray, the vegetable nonstick stuff. And when you do this, don't scrunch it together, because otherwise you'll be compressing it, even a pound cake. Hold it lightly and then just quickly like that.
You want grill marks on a piece of steak, not on a pound cake. You know, the little grid marks.
I agree. Yeah. But don't worry, because if you were to get a few marks, nobody would ever notice. Like I just lifted off a tiny bit.
I see, but it's so, oh man, it's so tender. Tender, there's that word again, tender up there. And now there's more lemon still.
That's the nicest part.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, this is my favorite cake. If there were just one cake left in the world, this would be it. Desert island, dessert island.
Yes, tender is the cake.
So just assume we've brushed the entire thing. And then you can cover it with plastic wrap. You can freeze it. You can let it sit for a week at room temperature.
At this stage, you could freeze it.
After it cools, I would do that.
And then you would just simply defrost it at room temperature and it would be great. If you were not putting it in the freezer, but you wanted to make it in advance, how far in advance could you go?
A week.
A week?
Easily.
So I could just have it sitting in my kitchen at room temperature for a week.
Yeah, 5 days, and then, or if you want it longer, put it in the refrigerator, but serve it at room temperature because butter gets firm when it's refrigerated, and then it doesn't have that wonderful melting quality.
And if it were just sitting there on my kitchen counter for a week, would I have it covered or not covered?
Oh, always
covered.
And
like
with plastic wrap.
Okay.
In fact, Saran is a plastic wrap that has absolutely no air spaces. It's meant to be airtight, whereas other wraps are designed to store vegetables where they'd rot if they didn't breathe. So if you're going to just use plastic wrap, be sure and use the right variety.
You know, I like those thicker slices that you've cut. That thin little slice that I had at the beginning of the show, that didn't seem right.
I guess
That's
it's
not
more
right.
for ladies' tea. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. As a matter of fact, let me get in here and see.
More?
What would happen if I did like that?
Well, there'd be some people who'd be very happy.
Yes, I'd be one of them.
I could tell.
Yeah.
By the way, should I tell you about this lemon rose?
Sure.
Because it's made just from lemon peel. You boil the lemon for 5 minutes and it softens it and you can peel it just like a tomato. And then I poach it in a sugar and water syrup and it just gets twirled around on the base.
Oh, that's great.
Isn't that easy?
It's a yellow rose, but it's a lemon. It's your lemon,
not a
Rose. Okay. Now, to finish garnishing this, you do the blueberry thing, of course.
We have the blueberries sitting here all ready to go.
Oh, I love the way it's sticky.
See how it holds together? Because otherwise it would roll right off the fork when you try to eat it. So you can't really serve fresh blueberries easily.
To me, that's a very attractive level of stickiness that you got there.
That's very well said. Either you do a light dollop of the whipped cream, and I don't like it too stiffly beaten because that way you have that nice, soft, cloud-like look. Or if you want to get fancy,
Oh, we're going to use the pastry bag.
Yeah.
Is this sweetened, this whipped cream?
Lightly sweetened.
Lightly sweetened.
Like I would use a tablespoon of superfine sugar for a cup of heavy cream. I don't like to use powdered sugar because you know that has cornstarch to keep it from lumping. And if you don't cook it, then the cornstarch, you can feel it kind of.
Before you do it, just give us a sense for people who haven't used this before. How do you just take the cream and you just...
Yeah, you make a cuff and You see, you put it in a glass or something to support it, and then just spoon the cream in. I like to use the heavy-duty freezer bags, the resealable ones, because then you can close them. A lot of problems people have with these bags is that if they don't hold them tightly here, they're squeezing down there and it's coming up the top.
Right.
Whereas when you can close the bag, that doesn't happen. But otherwise,
So you're saying
just
you
twist
don't
it.
need a fancy Dan pastry bag. You could do it with a plastic freezer bag.
Yeah, I'm going to be showing you that when we get to the chocolate one because we're going to pipe through that. And then you just cut off the corner and put the tip in.
But here you've
So,
got,
see, that's
what
a
kind of
nice
tip is
look.
that?
This is a star tip.
Okay.
And then you can get really nice festoons, or you can pipe like a shell pattern, a whole bunch of them.
Oh, that looks great.
So, either way, it's going to be delicious.
That looks great.
We'll put this
Okay,
back in
so
here.
we have done the pound cake deal. Let's begin the cheesecake deal.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So tell us what we do first. And what is Cordon Rose?
Actually, that was the name of my cooking school.
Clever. Not
It means
Cordon Bleu,
pink
but your
ribbon.
rose pink ribbon, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
And I called it after that because I had the school for 10 years, and this was the favorite dessert that I taught. We start by using a springform pan, but the important thing to this cake is in order to keep it creamy, is to cook it in a water bath. In other words, a second pan that has water in it.
We'll be pouring hot water in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you have to use heavy-duty 2 layers of aluminum foil because otherwise these springform pans always absorb some of the water and it won't be as perfect.
Oh, I see.
This is the easiest cake in the world to make. To make it fancier, I like to use the ladyfingers as a crown.
Right, because we are in New York, and the traditional New York cheesecake doesn't have the ladyfinger crown. But this is another rose touch.
It's not even in the book. I thought of it after that.
Oh,
I think,
really?
Yeah, maybe in the revision.
First time on television, folks. Probably, right?
True.
Yeah.
So to make the crown, just take the strip of the ladyfingers, don't cut them apart unless they come apart, but they'll hold together. Grease the inside of the pan. You always do that with cheesecake to keep it from cracking. Because then when it comes away, it can come away without splitting.
Okay.
And then,
Now these ladyfingers, of course, they came in the
like little
package
sandwiches.
like this.
so we just separated
And you
them.
have to
and then
separate
just
them this
cut
way.
off the very bottom. Well, I'm going to let you do this, but
Okay.
you just set them up against the side.
Right.
As many as will fit in, and then you can squeeze in as many in the center as you want to. And that way, any liquid that comes out of the cheesecake gets absorbed into the sponge fingers and becomes really lovely, tender again.
Is this pan greased?
We hope so.
We hope so. In an ideal world, Rose, is this pan greased?
Do you know, this is actually a cheesecake you can make for Passover. Because
how so?
you just leave out the cornstarch, and instead of using 3 whole eggs, use 6 egg yolks.
I see.
And you'll get it to thicken, but of course you can't use this kind of cake.
Right, you couldn't use the
You can use the
ladyfingers.
Passover sponge, and just at the bottom, and it will absorb the liquid.
What's Passover sponge?
It's a sponge made with matzah meal.
Oh,
you
cool.
should know. What do you
Yeah,
mean?
oh, I know.
What's
I mean,
a Passover?
And look at this. Look how these fit in here perfectly. I wasn't aware that it was going to work that way, Rose, but you've planned everything down to a T as
Oh,
usual.
yeah.
Okay, listen, I'll tell you what. You've got some cheesecake
you.
making to do, but we're going to wait a moment. We'll do that when we come back.
Okay.
Meanwhile, take a break. We're going to make a delicious sauce for the cake. We're going to make the cake. We've got chambord. We've got strawberries. We've got it all, folks. Come back and join us.